Shabbat Shalom. Our service begins with Shalom Aleichem on page 142, using the page numbers in the brackets.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom. Barechuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom. Seidhem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Shalom, Shalom. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shalom, Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to the Reformed Temple of Forest Hills. I'm Rabbi Mark Kaiserman, along with Cantor Emily Wygod Pincus. We're delighted to celebrate Shabbat together, all of us here tonight. We need these breaks in our week from all the stresses out there in our own personal lives, at work, at school, and then beyond us in our city, in our country, in our world. We need to take a breather, to breathe in the air of community and holiness, and celebrate together this day of rest. We're especially delighted this evening as we welcome Rich Orloff, a poet and playwright, to share with us some of his poetry and reflections on his journey of writing with us later this evening. Shabbat is always special to have everyone here with us in the sanctuary, everyone who's joining us on our live stream. But this is an extra special Shabbat for Joshua Lazarus and his family as he prepares for his bar mitzvah tomorrow morning. And we're delighted to celebrate with Josh tonight as he gets ready. And so we begin our services with the candle blessings to get us ready to bring the light into our community. And we invite up Joshua, his parents Stephanie and Ari, and his sister Alyssa. Page 121 in our prayer books, using the page numbers in the brackets.
Right over here. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, By our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with the Kiddush on page 123. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei puri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinhilanu zikaron l'maaseh Bereshit, Kuihu Yom Tehillah, let me cry Kodesh, Zecher Letziat Mitzrayim, Ki banu v'harta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat Kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinhaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim. Take this opportunity to wish Shabbat Shalom to someone around you, maybe even find someone new that you don't know. Please be seated. A reading that's not in your prayer books. A Confession About How I Spent My Day by Rich Orloff. Some days I confess, my thinking goes like this. Life is this beautiful thing that I really hope to get around to when I have the time. But first I need to check my email, see what's happening on Facebook, and take a glance at the news. I would hate to get behind in keeping up. I have work to do, so many chores I've been putting off, a few texts I want to send, and something important to share with my Facebook friends. After a while, I feel exhausted from all the energy I've expended, not to mention deciding which emails to respond to today and which I'll put off till later. So I need to watch a little TV or perhaps a YouTube video, and of course taking a moment to find out how many people have responded to my Facebook post. At the end of the day, I feel so pleased with all that I've accomplished. I look at life waiting patiently in the corner, and I resolve that I really hope to get around to it tomorrow if I can find the time. Shalom Lecha Dodi, page 138. We'll be sharing verses 1 and 2 and then rising for verse 9.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Shamor v'zachor bedibor echad hishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litilah Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha. Mirosh mikadem nesucha, sof maseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela.
Please rise.
Boi v'shalom, Ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha uv'tzola. Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela.
Turn to our call to worship on page 146 as we remain standing.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai la lai lai
together on page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. On the facing page.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד, שם כבוד, מלכותו לעולם, לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. We invite up to the bima our bar mitzvah, Joshua Lazarus, as we continue with the Via Hafta on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem emet. We read together on page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children in the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la, נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה יפל, נורא תהילות, עושה יפל. מלכותך באו בניך, בוקי הים, לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. Who is like you? Adonai, who is like you? Adonai. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
We find comfort in the roof over our head, although sometimes we don't even think about it. We find comfort in the presence of God around us and above us, although sometimes we neglect to think about that. We share a prayer for God's presence over and around us. Hashkivenu, the words can be found on your prayer handout.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Turn to the Tefillah, the center prayers in our service. It'll begin with the next reading on your prayer handout, open, and that will then lead us to page 166, and then using the even-numbered pages only. But if that's too much, just go to page 166 and you'll be set. Please rise.
Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi yagir. good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot ve'imot, Umevi Geula Livnei v'neihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Abraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצליח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Together, you are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Prayers for peace are the prayers we most need in our lives now. Peace in our own souls, peace in our bodies, peace in our country, peace in the world, peace in Israel. And so we offer up some prayers for peace in the hopes that they become realized through the actions of others, but through the actions of ourselves. Page 179, we read together. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Shalom Rav on the facing page.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim le'olam. בטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
We continue with our own private prayers.
So the next prayer that we are going to sing is called Captives of Hope, and it's on the bottom of that first page. And it's a prayer for the captives, but also saying that we are captives of hope because we keep hoping, right? So many times we are captives of hope, and I didn't even realize until I was looking up the prayer today that it's actually a blessing that is said on Tisha B'Av before reading Eicha, the book of Lamentations. So while I was thinking of this as a very modern song, it actually has legs that go back a bit. And then I looked on the music today, and it actually says right there, the prayer, the blessing before the book of Lamentations. And so I was thinking about Rich Orloff's earlier poem about how we run along, and then we don't take a chance to see what is right in front of us. So we continue to pray. Baruch atah Adonai, asher asanu asirei tikva. Baruch atah Adonai, asher asanu asirei tikva. Baruch atah Adonai, asher asanu asirei tikva. Baruch atah
אשר עשנו אסירי תקווה. Blessed are you, God. Blessed are you, God, who makes us captives of hope. Oh, captives of hope, asher asanu asirei tikva. Blessed are you, God. Blessed are you, God, who makes us captives of hope. Oh, captives of hope, asher asanu asirei tikva.
As is our temple's custom, we continue now with sharing from the Torah, beginning on page 364, and we invite to join us on the bima Roberta Traeger and Celia Cooper-Smith-Lehrman. Please rise.
Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, ki mitzion teitzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shmo, Gadlul Adonai iti, unerom ema Shmo yachtav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Kichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, kichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'yamid na'aseh lechol lirosh. Yisrael ve'oraita v'kodesha berichu chaytu. Yisrael ve'oraita v'kodesha berichu chaytu. Torah, ora, Torah, ora, hallelujah. Torah, ora, Torah, ora, hallelujah, hallelujah. Torah, ora, Torah, ora, berichu chaytu.
Please be seated. We continue now with our reading of the Torah through a scheduling mix-up. Josh is actually going to be reading words from next week's Torah portion, so you're getting an advance preview on the Torah. But we invite our bar mitzvah, Joshua Lazarus, up to the bima to share a little bit of his Torah, for tomorrow morning's sharing, and to offer our aliyah, our blessings over the Torah. We invite up Seth and Helene Diamond. If you'd like to follow along with the Torah portion, you can in the large Torah commentaries under the seats in front of you on page 154.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu michol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayihiyu haye Sarah me'ah shana ve'esrim shana v'shefa shanim shnei haye Sarah v'tamot Sarah b'kiryat arba he Hebron be'eretz Canaan vayavo Avraham lispot l'Sarah ve'lifkotam Vayakom Avraham me'al pnei meto, vayedaber el bnei het lemor.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
With the Torah out in front of us, we offer some special blessings of healing and hope. As we have sadly now done for over 13 months, we continue to offer our prayers of healing, of desperation, of yearning for the release of the hostages from Gaza. As we look for their release and for peace for the land of Israel and for all people suffering under the blight of war and terrorism, we join together in a prayer for the freeing of the hostages. It can be found on the back side of your prayer handouts. We read together. May God bless the hostages and all those missing and unaccounted for, citizens, soldiers, men, women, and children who are imprisoned and in grave danger. May it be your will, God of all, that they be released speedily and return to their families and to their homes, safe and sound in body and spirit. Plant the power of hope in the hearts of their loved ones, frantic and yearning for their release. Bring wisdom to the hearts of those laboring for their release, and compassion to the hearts of their captors. May God grant mercy upon them and save them from trouble to well-being, from darkness to light, from enslavement to redemption. May it be swift and soon, and let us say, Amen. In our own homes and family are people struggling with illness, with loss, with isolation. And so we offer prayers of healing for all those around us and for ourselves. In our temple community, we're especially thinking of Debbie Ball, Larry Bloom, Jack Freeman, Arnold Gilbert, Barbara Gilbert, Arlene Green, Jody Ann Herman, Judy Kaiserman, Laura Kowalski, Brenda Levinson, Don Levy, Joan Lipton, Jerry K. Schindler, Scott Scheidlauer, Roberta Traeger, Rochelle Weinberg, Elaine Wall, Batia Bat Esther, Renee Weisbaum, Joel Pikus, David Haney, Ken Cohn, Nathaniel Rubin, Evelyn Grossberg, Michael Canner, Greg Hofer, Carol Hofer. We add to these names that are in each of our hearts. If you're thinking of someone for a blessing for healing, we invite you to share their name out loud here in the sanctuary or add it to the chat if you're on the temple live stream. For all those we hold in our hearts, we join in a Misha Berach for healing. The words are in your prayer books in the middle of page 371.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBeracha Leimotenu.
May the
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBeracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. As we lift and dress the Torah, please rise.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לבני בני ישראל פי אדוני ביד משה. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לבני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. יאי לי 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 יאי לי 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 יאי לי 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 יאי לי לי יאי לי לי יאי לי 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 יאי לה לי לה לי לי.
As we return the Torah to the Ark with the words on page 374, we invite Liz and Neer Fisher, Elise Wagner, and Louise Wydra to join us on the bima.
Eitz chaim hi lamachzikim ba vetomcheha meushar derachea darchenom v'chol netivoteha. Shalom, shalom, hashivenu Adonai elecha velashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Please be seated. Rich Orloff is a poet and a playwright. His spiritually infused poems have been published in numerous magazines. We've been using his work at RTFH Shabbat services for over the last year. Each week he sends out a poem which is read by over 2,000 rabbis, ministers, and other spiritual leaders. His plays include the comedy Oi and the musical comedy Esther in the Spotlight. Born and raised in Chicago, he's a proud graduate of Oberlin College in Ohio. Rich currently lives in New York City. We are honored and delighted to have Rich share some of his work and reflection about the poetic story with us tonight.
Everybody's looking at me. Stay. That'll work. It's very exciting to be here tonight and a little intimidating. As Rabbi Mark said, oh, much better. I feel the light, it's much better. Yeah, I'm mostly a playwright, and one of the perks about being a playwright is I get to stand in the back of the room while other people say my words. And if a play goes well, I take full credit. If it doesn't go well, I blame the actors. But tonight, I have nobody to blame but myself. Fortunately, I'm Jewish, so it's part of my heritage. Rather than go with a long biography, I'm going to start with a poem, because that's what I do, called The Year I Became a Jew. Although I was born and raised Jewish and went to Hebrew school and was bar mitzvahed, my family did the basics, but never with joy. Observance was a matter of duty in which enthusiasm had no place. Although services had infinitesimal variations, the one constant was they were boring, designed not to burrow into the soul, but to remind participants of words that possibly once had meaning. One year, after I reached adulthood, as I still yearned to find a spiritual home that felt like home, I decided instead of attending one synagogue to spend the high holidays shul hopping. True story. At a Reform service, I understood the literal meanings of the words, but not necessarily what inspired them. At a conservative service, I felt like I was watching an old movie that engaged audiences when the film first came out. At a neo-Hasidic service, I felt transported to a different time. At a modern Orthodox service, I was reminded of how little Hebrew I knew. At a Reconstructionist service, I felt surrounded by passionate politeness. At a New Age service, I felt the rabbi strained to make the timeless trendy. At one service, the confident rabbi, in lieu of a sermon, asked people to shout questions at him. He had answers to each and every one, and I thought, this is a man who lacks the courage to say, I don't know. At every service, there were moments of, I don't agree with this at all. But as I went from shul to shul, I thought, I am glad I am on this journey. When my shul hopping adventure ended, I realized if I placed all of the congregants of all of the synagogues in one room, they would argue over as much as they agreed on. This was the moment I became comfortable being Jewish. Knowing that I could choose which items on the menu I found spiritually nourishing without having to swallow everything put on my plate, as I strive to satisfy an undeniable hunger that has inspired my path ever since. After that year, I tried many different synagogues, but none really spoke to me. I usually just spent the high holidays taking walks, meditating, sitting under trees, where I felt much closer to God than I did in most synagogues. A prayer under a tree. I lay under a tree the other day, a big tree, and I looked at a single leaf. I imagined I was the leaf, and I imagined the leaf saying, I'm not like the leaves on those branches far from me. I am my own leaf. Then I looked at the whole tree, and the thousands of leaves on the tree, and I looked at myself again and thought, forgive me for the sin of believing in the illusion of independence. Forgive me for pretending I'm not attached to something larger than just me. Forgive me for confusing uniqueness with separation. Forgive me for resenting all the reminders I can't do this by myself. Bless my tree, even if I can't control it. Thank you for the majesty of its branches and the strength of its roots and the good fortune that I was born as part of something so beautiful. And there I was, under various trees, completely content with the idea that I might not ever enter a synagogue again, not including bar mitzvahs. But then in 2016, I began hearing thoughts about concepts like divinity and God. And as the high holidays approached, I had an unprecedented urge to attend Yiddish course services, and the urge didn't go away, so I listened to it. But where to go? I'd heard about this unusual congregation in Manhattan called Romamu, which is part of the Jewish renewal movement. For those of you who don't know the Jewish renewal movement, it's a sort of a mix of neo-Hasidism, progressive Judaism, abyssal Buddhism, a spritz of yoga, and a huge emphasis on joy and love. I went there, and for the first time in a synagogue, I felt the souls in the room. Whether it was that about Romamu or about me, I'll never know. And I felt an urge to pray, not because I was instructed to pray, but because it was tapping into something deep inside me. So I began attending Romamu, and I was still writing plays, and for the record, I had never written a poem. Frankly, I don't like most poetry. I get 2 or 3 lines into a poem, and I suddenly feel like I'm stuck in a bramble of words. I feel like taking a machete and just cutting through all the metaphors. Then the pandemic hit, and everything stopped, and everyone stopped. And one day, sitting by the window, just looking out, a poem came to me. I had nothing else to do, so I listened, and I wrote it down. It's called A Prayer for Now. Taking a break this morning from the news and the fear, I look out the window and see a bright blue sky. I take a breath and I remember, I am healthy. I have friends. I am loved. I offer love. I've never really known what the future will bring. I'm grateful for the gift of life, however long it will last. These are the truths I will meditate upon during this challenging time. And let me say, Amen. So I'd written one, I wasn't quite sure what to call it, a prayer poem, a prayer, a bunch of words that were like shaped into a poem. But I shared it with friends, and to my surprise and delight, it had meaning for them. It gave them comfort. I never planned to write a second poem, but a few days later, another poem came to me, and then another, all about coping with the pandemic. I shared them in a couple of Zoom groups I was part of at the time, support groups to help people get through the pandemic. And I kept sharing them, and people kept being moved by them. I was not prepared for this. I'm not a poet, I'm a playwright who just happened to be writing these monologues that were in the shape of poems. But I kept getting ideas and writing them down, and they kept growing in complexity. A prayer about the meeting. I remember the morning I thought of this poem. Yeah, I was just sort of lying there half awake in bed. Thank God I have always a pen and notepad right next to me. A prayer about the meeting. When it's time to hold the meeting, give fear a place at the table. When fear feels estranged from your gatherings, it only works harder to be let in. When it's time to hold the meeting, give grief a place at the table. Grief is only passing through. It has healing powers like no other. When it's time to hold the meeting, give anger a place at the table. Let it shout till it loses its voice. Only then can it give up and listen. When it's time to hold the meeting, give joy a place at the table. Do not ask to justify its presence, or it will quickly run away. When it's time to hold the meeting, give ego a place at the table, But for God's sake, don't hand it the gavel. Treat it with respect. It's a warrior for your wounds. And whatever you do, when it's time to hold the meeting, make sure you keep one seat empty. A stranger may appear, bringing gifts of wisdom, mercy, and grace. Only then will the meeting be ready to begin. Over the next 6 months, I wrote about 60 poems. I turned some of them into a theater piece, because that's what I do, called Blessings from the Pandemic. And I let people know about them, and the play was done at theaters, schools, libraries, synagogues, and churches. People liked the piece and the poems. But as the pandemic ended, so did my poetry writing. I thought, not a big deal. I'm a playwright, not a poet. And I wrote my first musical comedy, which Rabbi Mark referred to, Esther in the Spotlight, which was performed at my synagogue. It was a big hit. People laughed, they cried, they felled. It was a really great experience. I played Haman, everyone booed at me, which was a kind of a novel experience, but at least I chose it for once. And I thought, wow, I've written this cool perm spiel. Everyone's going to want to do it. And I did some research with the help of an assistant, and I got these lists of synagogues and Hebrew schools and JCCs and Jewish theater groups and Reform rabbis and Reconstructionists, conservative and Jewish renewal rabbis, and Hillel, a lot of people. And I sent out a huge email blast to over 2,000 people. I got one request to read the script. Not the success I hoped for. Lest you pity me too much, through various other ways, the play has since been performed in Toronto and Tel Aviv, in Miami. A children's version was just done in Manhattan, but not through my hard effort, through various parts of synchronicity and good fortune that I call life. One day, completely out of the blue, I got this email from a rabbi in Toronto, Rabbi Michael Dolgan of Temple Sinai in Toronto. He knew about my poems, he knew about my plays, and he asked if I'd write a series of reflections to supplement and deepen their Yizkor service. My first response was, are you crazy? I have no qualifications for this, none whatsoever. I'm not that religious, nothing. So I said yes. Because one of the things I love about being a writer and being a human is getting myself into situations where I have no idea what I'm doing. For 3 months, Rabbi Michael and I met over Zoom twice a week. There were like tutorials about everything connected to the Yizkor service. And sometimes he would say things, and then I would just go for a walk or lie on my couch, and ideas would come to me. But something was missing. And during one tutorial, I asked him a question that I had been scared to ask, but I knew I had to ask. What if one of our ancestors was an asshole? Sorry, kids. And Rabbi Michael replied, oh, I have one of them. And we had our first real heart-to-heart conversation, and we became friends. A prayer for forgiving ancestors. I admit, I'm keenly aware of the flaws of those I remember. I have underlined their shortcomings. I have nursed wounds. I have chosen what to remember and what to ignore. I resist letting go of resentment. I not only get power from judging you harshly, I fear that without it, my memory of you will grow dim. I've rushed to token forgiveness, convincing myself it's real, hiding my true feelings while taking refuge in familiar pains. Even when I take tiny steps to forgive, I expect to be rewarded as if each step is a noble gesture. And I pray, let painful memories be healed, but never denied. Let me overcome my desire to use memory as a form of vengeance against the dead. Let the pain of memory never be an excuse not to feel gratitude, nor gratitude an excuse not to see you clearly, nor seeing you clearly an excuse not to forgive. I do not insist that your memory be a blessing. I let go of any and all demands that the past be different, or that you atone from your grave. The goal that Rabbi Michael and I set was for me to write 18 poems. I wrote 50. I'm a bit of an overachiever. And I was also constantly feeling inspired. And between my pandemic poems and my poems for Temple Sinai, I had well over 100 poems, and I had no idea what to do with them. So one day I visited my local Barnes & Noble and went to the poetry section for the first time in my life. And I looked at these books and realized that even if I got my poems published, they'd end up in a section of the bookstore that people like me never went to. Once again, inspiration hit. I had over 100 poems, and I had these lists of rabbis and JCCs and Hillels. And my deepest desire was that my poems end up in the hands of people who would appreciate them. So I sent an email blast to over 1,000 rabbis and over 1,000 close personal friends, and I shared my poem, The Big Ask, with them. I didn't know what response I would get. Maybe a few people would like the poem. My hope mostly was that not too many people would mark the email spam. Nobody did. Over 1,000 people read the poem, and over 150 people sent me emails of appreciation. I was not prepared for this. Especially, after they responded to this poem, I thought, okay, I want to send them another poem. What's my second best poem? But I kept sending out poems every week or two, and I kept getting emails of appreciation. And I learned that some rabbis were sharing my poems with their congregations, which was a dream. I also learned that a friend overseas got a great response when she published my poems in the Australian Unitarian newsletter, which I promised was never on my bucket list. And suddenly it occurred to me, you didn't have to be Jewish to like my poems. So I added Unitarian ministers to my list, and other progressive ministers, and my theater friends, many of whom turned out to have a spiritual side you would have never noticed looking at them. Over the last year and a half, I've sent out over 73 poems so far. My poems are now read by over 2,000 people each week. Because I listened to that crazy but inspired idea to start emailing them. Because I listened when that first poem entered my head. Because I listened to the voice that said, go to a year's course service, see what happens. I think God speaks to us in mysterious and crazy, non-rational ways. Intuition, imagination, inspiration, love. And the challenge we all face at those moments is whether or not to listen, especially if the message is one that surprises us. Which, by the way, is probably the underlying theme in almost every Torah portion, including this week. I felt very proud that I'd be able to shove the Torah portion into my sermon, because that's what you're supposed to do. One final thought and one final poem. Here's the thought. If people could only treat each other with love and kindness and respect and decency, I'd be out of a job. I want you to know I'm not planning to write another poem ever unless I get an idea for one. And here's one of my most recent ideas. It's called God Dares Me to Be Me. On one of those days when the facade of my identity cracks under the pressure of living, God whispers to me, I dare you to be you. Stop acting like a tulip pretending to be a rose, a rabbit trying to be a porcupine, a latke pretending to be a blintz. There is a galaxy within you. Don't reduce it to a smattering of stars. Rejoice in each glowing ember inside you. Befriend the ones lurking in dark shadows. I have placed within each human both an animal and the divine. If you deprive yourself of either, you will never fully experience life. I created you to be you, not an imitation of someone else. Enjoy the adventure of unlocking the mystery of the possibly glorious you. Shabbat Shalom.
we each listen to those voices that speak to us and inspire us to do more and make more in the world and of ourselves. We turn to the concluding blessings of our service, beginning with the Aleinu in the middle of page 586, and we invite to join us on the bima Jody Ann Herman and David Reinhardt. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Please be seated. The Big Ask by Rich Orloff. To God, to my ancestors, to anyone who will listen, I ask and pray for this. Bless me with a peace that's deeper than happiness, that makes room for profound sorrow, that accepts pain and loss, that's not dependent on good news. Bless me with a peace that comforts me when I feel anguish, that steadies me when I feel uncertain, that expands me when I think small, that finds a way through my fiercest resistance. Bless me with a peace that stretches beyond my horizons, that heals even when I can't explain why, that offers delight as an everyday gift, that allows me to see blessings. Bless me with a peace that is a refuge from torment, that is an oasis from yearning, that is a sanctuary from trauma, that transcends all else, but never denies all else. Bless me with a peace that renews my gratitude for life, and that I can access every time I let you in. As we let God into our hearts, we share the memories and love for those who have passed on before us. This week marks the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of these members of our extended temple family. Bertha Berkowitz, Robert Berman, Lester Blank, Albert E. Brown, Max Cantor, Noach Ben Chaim, Harry Chernin, Ben Cohen, Esther Kosminski, Sarah Kodal, Bernard Deichman, Leon Doman, Edith Erdberg, Mindy Erdman, Herbert Fielman, Jenny Fielman, Ella Fishman, Samuel Gelber, Evelyn Geller, Max Goldstein, Saul Gruber, Pearl Hack, Helen Herman, Betty Horowitz, Lena Iskowitz, Morris Tchaikovsky, Albert Jones, Jack Kahan, Selma Katz, Alan Kornberg, Freimet Cooper-Smid, Eva Lackman, Jacob Laxer, Sophie Lieberman, Virginia W. Lowenstein, Jax Lovins, Frederick Mayer, Edward Meltz, Paul Mendelson, Rosa Middle, Laura Mogitz, Samuel Nelson, Lillian Newman, Charles Osias, Deborah Robb, Marlene Reinhardt, Sandra Ruth Reisenberg, Hilda Sachs, Jules E. Sachs, Franco Samaya, Beverly Samuels, Marjorie Sears, Gertrude Seidel, Esther Sezin, Dora Monis Shapiro, Ida Shore, Herb Schrage, Harry Skloot, Jerry Stapleman, Jack Strauss, David Traeger, William Weinberg, Muriel Weiner, Esther Weiss, Betty Weston, Alice Zarb, Rose Zuckerman, Miriam Zunder. We recall in sadness the recent passing of Stephen Blum, father of Susanna Blum. We add to these names all of those who are in our heart, all of those who fight for freedom, all of those who give us strength and love. If there's someone you're particularly thinking of on this Shabbat, we invite you to share their name out loud here in the sanctuary or on the chat on the live stream. For all those we hold in our hearts today and every day, we join in the Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. With blessings from all of us, we join together. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach harutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yom echon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'galav izman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha baruchu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbekata v'nechmata damiran be'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yamru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to every broken heart. And let us say,
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'yimeru, amen.
amen. Please be seated. With words of welcome from our congregation, our temple president, Seth Diamond.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you for Rabbi and Cantor for leading us in this moving service that provides us comfort at a time when we need it most. Thank you also to Nitzan for the wonderful music that always enriches our services. And thank you to Andy and Juan for your support behind the scenes. We also want to thank our special guest, Rich Orloff, for joining us this evening. Your being here helps us put a face to the name that we have heard and enjoyed for so long. Your words have always moved us, but having you here in person is even more powerful and meaningful. Mazel tov to Josh and Stephanie, Ari, and Alyssa on the occasion of Josh's bar mitzvah. The dedication of the entire Lazarus family, and especially Stephanie's contributions, have made life at Temple more joyous and special for so many of us. Tonight and tomorrow, I hope we can reverse the roles, and you will let us bring the joy to you as we celebrate Josh's bar mitzvah. Thank you also to Ari and Stephanie for sponsoring tonight's oneg. The oneg is also sponsored by Helene and me in honor of my mom's upcoming birthday. Thanksgiving is coming sooner than any of us would like to admit, and besides turkey and family gatherings, that means the annual Interfaith Thanksgiving service is approaching. The service will be held at Church in the Gardens a week from Sunday at 4 p.m. Especially in these difficult times, it will be meaningful to come together as a community. Rabbi Kaiserman, Cantor Pincus, and the adult and junior choirs will be playing part in the service, along with the clergy and choirs of houses of worship in our neighborhood. And this Sunday at noon, you can help support WOCO, which helps us all year long by attending their annual fall luncheon. I know the deadline to register has officially passed, but I have it on good authority that if you talk or email to Phyllis Rosenberg this evening, you'll be fine. Details on all those events and more can be found in the e-blast and on our website. Finally, on this night of poetry, I wanted to share something I read that brings together verse, Judaism, and a message particularly for our young people of standing up for Jewish values. I will say at the outset that the poetry here will not do justice to the work of our special guest. This poem involves Hank Greenberg, the first Jewish ball player in baseball's Hall of Fame. 90 years ago, when Jews around the world were ready to welcome in 56-96, Hank and his team, the Detroit Tigers, were locked in a battle for first place with the mighty Yankees, who featured Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. With Rosh Hashanah coming, Greenberg, the child of Orthodox Jews, faced a decision about whether to play on the holiday. He agonized, but ultimately decided to play after a top Detroit rabbi told him that Jews played games on Rosh Hashanah throughout history. If that isn't a hometown umpire, I don't know what is. Hank was troubled by his Rosh Hashanah decision, and 10 days later, when Yom Kippur arrived, he thought about it again and came out in a different place. Despite the race for first place and the importance of the game, Greenberg did not play on Yom Kippur. It's the only game he missed all year. After not playing, poet Edward Guest wrote a poem that ran in newspapers across the country. Its last lines were, "Came Yom Kippur, holy fast day worldwide to the Jew, and Hank Greenberg to his teachings, and the old tradition true. Spent the day among his people, he didn't come to play. Said Murphy to Mulroney, we shall lose the game that day. We shall miss him on the infield, we shall miss him at the bat, but he's true to his religion, and I honor him for that." And to those lines, I will add, with further apologies to Rich, some of my own poetry for the special day we're celebrating today and tomorrow. Tonight we honor Josh with pride, his family's joy, his heart's true guide. Through faith and love, he's found his way, a young man strong on this special day. Today his parents proudly stand with love that shaped his heart and hand. Their values shine in all he'll do, a testament to faith so true. As you walk forward, Josh, bold and bright, may you always find the light. In every step, your community's here. With pride, with love, we hold you dear. Shabbat Shalom.
Next Friday night at Shabbat services at 7, in addition to, of course, our beautiful Shabbat service, I'll be sharing a little bit about my recent trip with a whole bunch of rabbis to Cuba and reflecting on my experiences with the Jewish community down there. We want to call up Josh back up to the Bima, along with the president of our youth group, Tafi, CJ Kabanarji, for a presentation for Josh.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm pretty sure you already know who I am. As a quick reminder, I'm CJ. As a gift from Toffee, we want to give you a bag of toffee because we're funny. And we hope you can join the youth group. Thank you. Of course.
Before Josh leaves, tonight at our own egg, we have all of our delicious treats, but there'll be an extra special treat in limited supply that'll be coming out. That's special just for Josh because last year Josh attended more Shabbat services than any other 7th grader, and so he asked for a special oneg tonight at his bar mitzvah. So you might be one of the few and lucky to get a piece of it during services. As we prepare for oneg, we want to offer the motzi, the blessing over food, to get us ready for all the joy of eating that we'll share together and all the community will gather. We want to invite anybody who's not yet bar or bat mitzvah to join us up front. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz
B'te'avon, bon appetit. And we conclude with Adon Olam, which you can find on page 625. Adon Olam Hashem alach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa v'chefzo kol azay melech shemo nikra azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu Betifara, Behu Echad, Bein Shini, Lehamshilo, Lehach Bira, Beli Reishit, Beli Tachlit, Velo Haoz, Beham Misra, Velo Haoz, Beham Misra, Behu Eli, Vechai Goali, Betur Chevli, Beitara, Behunisi Umanos Li, Menat Kosi, Beyom Mekra, Menat Kosi, Beyom Mekra, Beyado, Afkid Ruchi, Beiti Shal, Beyaira, Beyim Ruchi, Keviati, Adonai li, Velo ira, Adonai li, Velo ira.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.